Hello, welcome back to the Affaircare video blog and podcast. I'm Cindy Taylor. I'm one of the two people involved in Affaircare. Of course, the other one is my dear hubby, David. And you hear often, we call, Cindy and David. My hope is one of these days that he will come on also and do a podcast with you. But for now, welcome back. We are in, I believe it's day 7 of our series on going over the basic concepts here at Affaircare. If you would really like an in-depth version of our basic concepts, I would encourage you to listen to podcast number 1, which is called Intro Basic Concepts. And there we will go in depth into some of the basic terms that we use and why we use them and that kind of thing. But for now, let's just suffice it to say that we think of love as a campfire, and that there are actions that a person can do that will put out the fire, just like, if you were to pour water onto the fire, those actions would then put out this fire of love in your marriage. And then there are actions that a person can do that kindle the fire and make it blaze, make it hotter, make the love grow. Those actions we call Love Kindlers. And this week, we've been going over the Love Kindlers in, no particular order, but we just happened to pick an order. So we started with emotional commitment, Kindler number 1, which is meeting your spouse's needs to feel loved, valued, respected, and appreciated, that kind of thing. Then we went over Love Kindler number 2, which is spiritual commitment, which is committing to your spouse's spiritual growth, and we did talk about being a Christian. Number 3, we talked about physical commitment. This is the one that the United States is so focused on. We're crazy about sex, about non-physical touch, and about being physically attracted to your spouse. But we're so focused on the exterior and the physical, how do I look, our looks and youth and that kind of stuff, and sex, and getting our own gratification, that we forget that our job is to meet our spouse's need, not ours. We discussed financial commitment, and for those of you that maybe are having struggles in this area, I would recommend take a look at Dave Ramsey. Now, I'm not saying that he has the answer to everything, but he has some good basic stuff, and I really believe that it will be a good first step toward getting your finances in order. Yesterday, we talked about family commitment, which is meeting your spouse's and your family's need for individual time alone with you, and for sharing the child rearing and the household chores. Today, we're going to be discussing social commitment, which may sound kind of different, but it is the sharing, meeting your spouse's need to be included in your social life and doing social activities together. So often I hear of people, there's two kind of typical things that are, to me, it's always kind of surprising. One is people who think, I'm going to go, girls' night out or guys' night out, I'm going to go and do this hobby or this thing that my spouse is not included in, but even beyond that, I really kind of don't want them to come. Maybe, they don't like to go fishing, and that's cool. You think to yourself, but I do, so I'm going to go with a couple of my fishing buddies. But then it gets to a certain point where you're like not engaging with your spouse anymore. So that's one typical thing that I hear of people doing that kind of ends up damaging their marriage. But the other one would be, so they're like doing an activity that excludes their spouse and thus communicating to their spouse, I care about this activity more than I care about you. Or the other one I hear about is, I should be able to do whatever activity I feel like doing, and it's like my privacy, my personal time, and basically to heck with my spouse. I don't care if they don't like it. And there again, communicating that the activity means more than the spouse. When we married, our commitment, if you will, was that we would spend the rest of our life loving that other person, our spouse, and that we would take the time to get to know what means love to them. And I can guarantee you that excluding your spouse from your life is not loving them. So Let's go over a few of the things that would be social commitment, kind of give you some examples. I've already indicated one of them, which is including your spouse in your social activities. To me, the way that I do that, I just anything that I'm involved in, my spouse, not only does he have the freedom to look at it and see what I'm doing, but also to come. I want him to be there. I want everybody I know to know him. I want him to, there are times when my dear hubby is an introvert, and so he does not like to socialize and whatnot as much as I do. And so what we do is that he's always welcome to come. I wish people had the ability to know him as I do, because I love him, of course. I think he's fabulous. So, but the thing is, anything we do, most of our social activities we do together as a couple. We go to things we both enjoy. Sometimes there will be something that he enjoys that I'm less thrilled with, and I'll go do it with him anyway because I love him, and so if he's interested, I want to know about it so I can discuss it intelligently with him. And likewise, I'm sure there's things that I do that he's less interested in, but he still takes at least the time to know enough to discuss it intelligent with me. So we're including each other in our social lives, and most of our social life we do together. Some of it, if it's sort of more separate, he's free to know all about it, who I'm going with, where I'm going, but also I would love for him to come. So I have that open door policy. Another part of social commitment is encouraging your spouse to have a social life. Now, in this instance, it's really good to know if your spouse is an introvert or an extrovert. And being an introvert is not a psychological disease of some kind. They just are people who are more, they enjoy a richer internal life. When the easy way I always look at it is, how do you recharge your batteries? Some people recharge their batteries by being with others and by talking and that kind of, and other people find that tiring, and they recharge their batteries in solitude and peace and quiet. So a person who's an introvert, they tend toward the solitude and peace and quiet, and like to be in their home environment, and they have the richer internal life, a lot of times having a great imagination, enjoying a quiet time maybe at home with their spouse. So whatever your spouse's social life may be for them, encourage them to do it. Give them the opportunity to express their social life the way they want to. So for example, if you're an extrovert and your spouse is an introvert, don't make them be an extrovert. That tires them. That's like another burden on them. You can see how that would put out the fire. Instead, let's say if they're an introvert, maybe all they like, their idea of a social life is talking on Facebook and doing D&D games with their friends. Cool. Encourage them to do that. Make it so that your home is ready, that they could have their friends over for the D&D game. See what I mean? Encourage them to have a social life their way. Okay. Another part of the social commitment is sharing fun recreational activities together. Okay, this is an area that many spouses actually neglect, and that is, like, let's see, he likes tennis. I'm sorry, I can't stand tennis. I don't know why. It's just the most boring, stupid game to me. Running back and forth, hitting a tiny little ball. I don't know. It's not my thing, right? But rather than forcing your spouse to do something they don't do, a lot of times what couples will do is like, fine, he loves tennis, he's off to tennis, and pretty soon, guess what? He finds some other lady who likes tennis. Likewise, the lady who doesn't like tennis, she's just home alone crocheting, pretty soon she meets some other guy who's into crocheting. You never know, it could happen. So, what you want to do instead is share some fun recreational activities together. Now, if the guy is into tennis, he can do tennis, and if the lady's into crocheting, she can do crocheting. But guess what? They should both be into, car shows together or something, right? So what you want to do is sit down with your spouse and find one thing that you both like. I really like doing this. I really like doing that too, and do that together. It'll be like glue to bind you two together if you're doing things together, and it'll it kind of brings to your mind, my spouse is fun to be with. My spouse is enjoyable to be with. So maybe you both like going to the coast? Go to the coast together. You see what I mean? Find something you both like doing, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Just do it. This kind of leads to the next thing, which is sharing joy and laughter, because If the only time you're with your spouse is when you're discussing child care things and bills and sort of tiring, more adult things, eventually their attitude of you is going to be, their impression of you in their mind, so to speak, is going to be, they're not really all that fun to be with. And you want to be the sort of person for your spouse who is a joy, who is pleasant, who makes them laugh, who makes them smile. So in order to do that, you got to share joy and laughter. If you're having trouble, maybe you guys could see if you could talk about your senses of humor, watch movies that you find funny, and then discuss the movies, play little jokes on each other. I know that's one of the fun things that your hubby and I do all the time, David. We crack jokes and quote movies and laugh with each other. So this makes you think in your head how fun your spouse is. They're a fun person. So it's very important socially to do that with your spouse. Publicly express affection. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about PDAs, right, where you're, sucking face. Remember that back in the 70s where they're sucking face. Now, I just mean, don't be afraid to be out in public in front of and let the world sort of see that you like your spouse. I always hold David's hand when we go out, or put my hand on his knee, because when we're sitting together, say even at church, because I want the world to know that I love my spouse. I think he's great. And sometimes the simplest little actions like that, like holding your hand in public, I'm proud of him. I want to be with him. And then that makes him feel a little bit good about himself. The next part is free time. It's important to have your own personal time and some free time where you can decompress and relax and everything. But as a married couple, you have indicated that you will spend your life learning how to love your spouse. And so it's important to offer them two things. Some of your free time, so that like the two of you are having time together, but also offer them the opportunity to have free time. So often I see this in, especially in, the stay-at-home parent, whether that's a mom or dad, it makes no difference. They just get no free time where they get to do their little thing. They're always, doing for the husband, for the children, and then collapsing in bed. And that's no way to live. You can't, it's exhausting. So offer your spouse some of their own personal free time, and also be sure to include them in the free time that you have, so that you guys have like free time together. As this kind of goes with the family time I was talking about yesterday. Let them be your companion. Companionship is going through life together and sharing the ups and the downs and everything that happens. If you're sad, if you're upset, and let's say like you have something that happens and you're mad at your person at work, right? Talk to your spouse about it a little bit, and yes, you work it out with the person at work, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, let your spouse in on your life so that they understand maybe why you're grouchy that day, or let them be your companion and be supportive. Give them the opportunity to support you. So this is socially like being with them. Be a companion, okay? And then the last two are engaging in conversation that is of interest to both of you. Women tend to like this one more. I think extrovert women actually really need this. They need to have conversation. And what happens so often, they go to work, they're tired, they've got the kids in bed, they're tired, they turn on the TV, numb out, and it's like you're living past each other. And instead, what I would encourage is, even if it's not, unless you have a show that you watch, but then you have some days where there's the show you don't watch a show that day. Just turn the TV off and sit and talk to each other. Maybe brew a cup of coffee, and you're going to sit and talk like grown-ups. How was your week? And discuss, whatever it is you're interested in. Now, you could be interested in anything. Don't have to be small talk, but maybe you're interested in theology, politics. Jump into some of those deeper topics. And it's okay. Say, hey, I learned this new thing. Oh, I saw this today. Whatever it would be, do a little personal engaging in conversation. This is really important for the people who are extroverts. And for introverts, it's harder to do that, and it will tire them, but it's good practice for the instances when you do have to be in a social situation and you do have to make a little small talk. So if you do that with your spouse, it's in a controlled environment, and your spouse loves you anyway, so they're going to be a little more forgiving. Express some interest and some caring by listening to your spouse and caring about what they care about. So, okay, so we've pretty much discussed the social commitment today. I would like to encourage you to leave any comments, questions, suggestions, anything in the comment box below if you're watching on YouTube or on the blog. I would like to also encourage you to please subscribe or follow the blog if you're doing it that way. And if you're on iTunes, please subscribe, download the podcast. We are so glad to have you. And I have to tell you, I'm really proud to have a podcast and be doing it every day. So thanks so much for joining us. Tomorrow, the last Kindler, and it's going to be the security commitment for your spouse, being your spouse's safe haven. So see you everybody tomorrow. Hope you have a great night. Bye-bye.